He's going by Evolution False today. He went by EF last week. He goes by a whole bunch of other things. Why don't you use your name? Hello?
Why? Because I prefer to use a screen name, and because there's a whole lot of atheist trolls and stalkers out there.
I totally understand that.
If we lived in a world where we didn't have a lot of miscreant stalkers and trolls out there, then maybe I would.
You know, let's work to build that better world. I like it. So, EF.
So my question...
Well, hold on. EF, you've called in a few times, and I do want to kind of bring people through this together before we kind of dive into things, right? The first thing I want to kind of dive into is the style of apologetic that you're using. I understand that that's called presuppositional. Would you agree?
You could call that, but my view is everybody argues from a presuppositional point of view.
Could you explain that so people who are watching can kind of follow along as we do this? Because I want this to be the most educational that we can make it. And so if we can work this out so people can watch, we can have a good conversation that people can grow from.
Everybody operates from a web of belief. Everybody has certain ultimate commitments. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have a belief in something that is ultimate, and their other beliefs will stem from that. You do, I do, everyone does. Okay. So my question to you is, since you lack belief in God, the personal absolute, you must be reasoning from an impersonal absolute as the basis.
I have a clarifying question.
And can I finish my question?
No, because I want to get through. Yeah, because you're calling on my show, so you can either wait. You can either wait because I'm trying to clarify this with you. No, you can wait. The reason you can wait is because I want to have an actual conversation and I want to understand what you're saying. So I want to ask for clarification whenever it comes up. Okay? Oh, were you put on hold?
I'm listening.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm listening.
Fantastic.
If you wanted to really cut me off, I'll wait.
Thank you. So you were starting to operate through, you said, because I disbelieve in a God, right? And then you started to attribute a quality to that God. And so I want to explore that because if I don't understand what quality you're talking about, we're going to talk past each other. And that's not a good conversation. So can you give me that first quality?
That quality is that which is absolute and unconditionally non-dependent.
Okay.
Now,
can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, it means that something that exists that does not begin to exist that provides for all dependencies or contingencies.
Okay.
Everybody has a belief.
Do you have any examples of that?
I'm trying to answer your question. You're going to cut me off rudely again?
Oh.
Is this the style of your broadcast where you cut people off?
I'm sorry. I thought this was Talk Heathen. I'm asking you to be specific. Okay? So,
I am being
do you have any examples of what you said?
I'm explaining to you a metaphysic about the nature of reality. Everybody believes that there's something that is absolute, that provides for all contingencies, okay?
I don't.
Theists believe that. Non-theists believe that.
I don't.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have a belief that there's something unconditionally non-dependent?
So I asked you to clarify that, and you told me that I was rude and interrupted you. And then when I asked you to clarify it again, you moved past it. So if you're going to ask me, do I think a thing exists, I'm going to ask you what it means. Please.
Yeah,
what do you mean by unconditionally non-dependent?
An absolute, something is unconditionally non-dependent if its existence does not depend on its beginning or anything independent or external of itself. That's what we would define as an absolute.
Okay, so I'm having trouble conceptualizing that. Can you give me an example of a thing that I understand that is unconditionally non-dependent?
God. God would be an entity that we could offer as an example of something that is unconditionally non-dependent.
Okay.
Now, for non-God believers...
No. Hold on. I'm still exploring this with you.
Cut me off.
No, you're not attempting to support. You're attempting to move on to the next thing. So either you're going to listen and you're going to answer the question or the conversation's over.
You can show your audience how rude you are.
Oh, okay. So he's on hold. You see, you're calling into my show. If you want your own show, create your own show. But if you want to talk to me and have a useful conversation where people aren't yelling at each other, you're going to have to do that. But there's not enough room for your ego on this. Let's try again. Are you there?
Yeah, let's try
Okay.
again. Now, can you not cut me off and rudely interrupt me before I finish?
No.
I don't care if this is your show. I will tell you where you're being rude, whether this is your show or you're on the sidewalk having a conversation with me. Now, I'd like to finish without you cutting me off.
Yeah, what do you think, Hector?
This is the third time I've appeared on your show, and each time you cut me off.
I think people tend to equivocate and then like want to move on from there, so you don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I think I think it's a fair point. Like, give an example.
No, go ahead.
What are you talking about? It's not really clear.
Well, I'll go through it again. Maybe this time you guys cannot interrupt me.
Maybe you can actually not get so sad.
I think sometimes interrupting is okay if it prevents us from spinning our wheels and
to obstruct my ability to get the question out. It's very obvious what your tactic is.
The tactic is to break you down. Yeah. Because I honestly think...
There's no breaking me down. All you're doing is obstructing
you don't
my
like
ability.
questions.
Yeah. Well, no, he doesn't. He actually returns back and instead of answering a thing, just posits and then refuses to talk about himself.
Won't even let me get my question out.
Okay, so let me bring it back because you are very good at redirection. And I do not...
I'm sticking to my question.
No, you're sticking to a question that I didn't allow you to ask. So let's go back to the question I asked you at the beginning. Right? The question I asked you at the beginning
and I'm glad you're doing it because it's showing what you're doing.
Oh, man. Yeah, I agree. I don't let people who are dishonest to call and try and run other people's shows.
What did I say that was dishonest?
The tactic of redirecting and then, is it okay for you to interrupt? You know what? No, that's fine.
Well, let me get the question.
My show, I really don't need to actually drag down with that.
Here?
So here's how it's dishonest. I put him on hold. I know it's Talk Heathen. It's my show, right?
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, let's try this again, right? You said that God is unconditionally non-dependent, right? That is a claim that you need to support. Now, for you to turn around and say, what is this about you? You have redirected away from the question I have asked you. And I am not going to allow this conversation to continue if you continue to redirect away from that. You're off hold. Go ahead.
Yeah, now who's dishonest now? There was no redirection. You wouldn't let me finish the question.
No, because I asked you a question and you answered with a question.
Okay, are you going to cut me off again? Here we go again. Who's being dishonest now, Eric? And I'm glad you're doing it.
So,
you know why I'm glad?
Continue.
You're exposing.
I love this, right? I press a button and he shuts up. So let's try this again. You say God is unconditionally undependent or non-dependent. How do you know this? Go ahead.
Okay, let's see if I can get my question out without you cutting me off again.
No, you're cut off again, right? I asked you a question. You need to answer it. Go ahead.
You asked me for an example of something that could be unconditionally non-dependent. I gave you an example in the world of metaphysics, theology, and philosophy of something that can be defined as unconditionally non-dependent. I then went on to give a counterexample, which I was unable to do because you cut me off.
Yeah, because I said, how do you know?
And you're cutting me off again.
Yeah, because I don't know why you like hearing the sound of your own voice so much that you're not willing to have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, so
right? Put the script down and listen.
Who's dishonest? Let me finish.
How do you know that God is
I didn't.
Go back and listen, man. Is there any use to this?
I gave you a definition.
How pointless is this?
This is your little game you want to play, and you have the nerve.
I have the nerve to have a show. My goodness.
I mean,
this person's a joke. So, EF, is there any reason to have a conversation with you, or are you just going to get upset because I asked you?
I'm attempting to have a conversation with you.
No, you're attempting to talk at me.
Rudely.
And,
no, sir, every time I begin to respond to you, you cut me off.
Okay, then let's hear your answer to how do you know that a God meets those parameters?
I said that God is defined. By definition, a God or not God can be defined as being unconditionally non-dependent. When we talk about entities, they can either be unconditionally non-dependent or they can be dependent. Now, before you rudely cut me off, I tried to give a counterexample of something that is not God. Now, for certain materialists, they believe that the substrate of matter is unconditionally non-dependent, from which the singularity and the Big Bang arose. So I gave you an example from theism and an example from an atheistic worldview.
No, you gave an example.
I'd like to get my question out that you have refused to let me ask.
No, because we're still talking about this one. We finish what we start.
So the answer is no, you're not going to let me ask my question? Is that it?
When we finish this, we move on to the next.
Let me ask my question. Are you going to let me ask my question?
When we're done, yes.
So you're afraid of hearing my question, is that it?
No, I just don't need you to run roughshod and avoid things. Okay, then listen.
I'm not avoiding things.
Then listen, because right now it really sounds like you are. So let's go back. Okay. Your answer. This is my freaking show. Right? I could have gone on without you on hold again, right? I could have gone on and ended the show without talking to you at all. It is a privilege when you call in, not a right. You don't have the right unless you are having a productive conversation, because that's what we do here. So let's go back. EF.
Okay, I'll try to get my question out again. Are you going to cut me off again?
When you finish this conversation, then you can ask your question.
I want to ask a question. Are you going to get my question out? Or
once
are you
we
afraid
finish.
of my question?
Once we finish.
Ask a question.
So you can ask your question. I'll hold again. Here's the thing. You said a God can be defined that is unconditionally undependent or non-dependent. Cool. I can define myself as a deity too. But the thing is we're not getting any closer to finding out what is true. So when I asked you if you can give me an example of a thing, I think I made a mistake here, because the mistake that I made was I didn't ask you what existent thing that we can agree on has those qualities. And how do you even know that it's necessary? If you can answer that, we'll move on to your question.
Is he talking in an abstract, hypothetical kind of way, in the sense like, okay, some say gods are this, and some say, matter is this?
I don't know. As soon as I asked a clarifying, he said I was rude, and I cut in, and then he said I need to ask a question, which to me smacks of completely dodging.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why I want to finish this, because I want to actually see the conclusion before we change the subject.
Okay.
Right? As a presup, you are doing a very poor job, because what you're doing is you are, instead of actually demonstrating the thing that you're talking about, which I'd be happy to have, right now you're relying on dodging, and that's not okay. So, again, let's bring you back. Hey, EF.
Yeah, who's being dishonest here? There's no dodging. You're the one who's dodging. You will not let me get my question out. Every
I'm rubber,
time I attempt to ask
and you are glue.
Cut me off. Now, are you going to let me get my question out unfettered and uncut off?
This is my last time I'm going to say this.
I don't care.
Cool. Then you're done.
Yeah.
You don't care. You're not worth my time. You're not worth the time of the people who are watching this show. If you want to call and have an honest discussion, you are absolutely welcome to. We want to have those discussions. But if you called because you want to read a script, if you've called because you think that it makes you sound really good by completely dodging, you have a burden of evidence, right? You're making a claim. I'm not. And so when you make a claim, if you're going to say, I just know because I know, and then completely dodge around the fact that that is the presupposition, then there's really no point in having a conversation with you at all, is there? You can just have that conversation yourself. You can have it with the teddy bear. I don't care, because there's no point in me coming back and actually exploring it with you, because you have no intent to. And I've seen this. I've seen it with this precept. I've seen it with other precepts. And the idea is I have special knowledge, and I am going to duck, dodge, dive, dip, and dodge. He dodged twice. Instead of actually responding. So, no, man, you don't get room on my show.